Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett along with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And boy, is this issue today we're dealing with topical.
Indeed. One of our co-producers and my spouse, Amanda Myers, suggests shows from time to time. And she said, why don't you do a show on DACA? There's so much talk about immigration and particularly the DACA program that we decided that's what we would do, and we have one of the leading, if not the leading, immigration lawyer in Oklahoma and the Southwest with us today. Amir Farzaneh is going to be talking to us about DACA and other immigration topics.
And it's all coming up today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
As the Revolutionary War erupted, Chickasaws were shocked by what they saw as brothers fighting brothers. So the Chickasaw leader Payamataha sought peace, refusing to fight either side. Britain had been our ally and trading partner for over a century, and Chickasaws counted many revolutionaries as friends. Believing the continent could be shared by sovereign Indian nations, Britain and colonials alike, he worked tirelessly for peace. Payamataha understood that we were all bound together by trade and reasoned that trade could be incentive enough to end the bloodshed. Payamataha succeeded beyond all expectations, uniting many tribes, even enemy tribes, and never gave up his pursuit of peace. Our history is world history in the America we share today.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Yeah, it's very personally pleasant for me to introduce Amir Farzaneh because he not only is a wonderful immigration lawyer and quite a good citizen here in the Oklahoma City area, he's a personal friend and has been for 20 some odd years. Amir did his undergraduate work at the University of Oklahoma, and he graduated with a degree in nuclear medicine. He got a master's degree in health administration and then went on to Oklahoma City University to get his law degree. He has been practicing immigration law in Oklahoma City now for about 21 years. He is listed in Best Lawyers and a lot of other publications that are peer-reviewed publications that list standout lawyers in certain areas, and Amir is listed in the area of immigration law. Oklahoma City University realized his competence in immigration law and has asked him to teach it, and he is now, in addition to practicing law, a professor at Oklahoma City University teaching immigration law. Amir, welcome back to The Verdict for your second appearance.
Thank you.
Great to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is this a new subject matter for Oklahoma City University's law school to deal with? Did they have an immigration professor before you came along, or is this relatively new?
Yes, they did in the past,
Yeah.
and this is my third year teaching it now, and I'm very glad to be teaching at Oklahoma City University. I'm really impressed with my students. They're enthusiastic. They're really smart and always prepared.
What draws a student to want to enroll in this subject matter in this class?
Well, almost every one of the students have some kind of an interest in immigration law. Many of them have had family members that have gone through it. Many of them have the interest to practice immigration law. Every single one of the students have some kind of interest or another in immigration law.
There's hardly a law topic that within the last 4 or 5 years it has had as much press and as many people talking about it as immigration law, immigration reform, whatever you want to say. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with students interest in learning about it.
Correct. You see, ever since 2001, immigration became a political subject. More or less, it got involved more and more in political issues, and as a result, it became more and more popular. Most of the students who are taking the class are themselves involved in immigration law. Either they are a family of immigrants, or they have family members who are involved in immigration, or they have worked in immigration law offices and such.
And it seems obvious, immigration laws depend on which country you're referencing. And
Correct.
So, as a professor, do you have to teach all of those different laws as it affects each and every country
Yes, sir.
about the United States? That must be just a mammoth amount of material.
It sure is. Our class is very comprehensive, and we just try to cover it as well as we can.
Well, how has immigration law evolved through the years? Was there immigration law in the 19th century when the Europeans were coming to the United States, and that wave of immigration? Were there laws back then, and were there professors at universities teaching immigration law way back then?
Yes, in fact, it started in 1900s. In 1890s or so, the first set of immigration cases started coming through, initially with the Chinese immigrants in the U.S., mostly in California area, and ever since then, it had become more and more a part of our legal system.
Well, I guess regulation of the border, or regulation of immigration, ebbs and flows. There must be periods in our history where there was a good bit of regulation about it, and other periods where there wasn't quite so much.
Absolutely. Looks like the last 40 years is when we're having more and more of regulation. There had been some periods where we hardly had any immigrants accepted into the United States, and recently, in the last few decades, we're having more and more immigrants coming to the U.S. Of course, the United States is honestly the best country in the world, the land of opportunities where everybody wants to be, and that attracts more and more immigrants wanting to come to the United States.
Well, it seems like a lot of the issue, all begins when the federal government cannot successfully enforce its borders. They cannot enforce the laws that they already have in place. So as someone who's trying to teach this, that seems like an awkward place to start with the fact you've got a law that can't be enforced now, and how are we dealing with it? Can you expand on that?
Yes, absolutely. You see, when we talk about immigration laws, we're talking about really two parts to it. One is the enforcement, the other one is what we call the benefits. There are so many benefits within the immigration laws that people look at. Many of the immigrants that come to the U.S., they want to receive those benefits. At the same time, immigration laws have that enforcement aspect to it, which is enforcing the immigration, making sure that those who are illegally here and those who are undesirable to be sent out of the United States. The government could do, and I'm hoping that will do, a better job of enforcing the laws for those immigrants that are not desirable in the U.S., like criminal aliens. At the same time, the government needs to also do a better job of creating benefits for those who deserve it.
Well, the topic that's popped up so recently is something that is called DACA, or DACA, DACA. Tell us
Right.
what that is.
DACA stands for Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals. Ever since 2001, the idea of not punishing children and those people who were brought to the U.S. as children based on the action of their parents came about. And that idea initially was introduced in an act called the DREAM Act, which never got passed. The DREAM Act stood for Development, Relief, and Education of Alien Minors. And the idea was...
That's the term dreamers came
Dreamers,
about.
yes. And that's why they call the DACA beneficiaries the dreamers. And the idea was to create a path to legalization for those people who were brought to the U.S. when they were children. And most of them are those who don't know any other country but the United States. Most of them are those that if they get deported to whatever country they came from, that country is unfamiliar to them. So that idea had been there, and that law got introduced, or different variations of it got introduced multiple times. Eventually, on June 15th of 2012, the Obama administration decided that they would like to go ahead and through an executive order by President Obama, they decided that they're going to defer any action on those people who were brought to the U.S. as minors. Certain people, of course, they had to be before, they had to have come to the U.S. before the age of 16. They must have been 30 and under at that time. And they must have gone through education in the U.S. They must have either passed, they must have either finished high school or passed GRD or things of that nature. And so the government decided that they're going to go ahead and hold off on deporting these people and give them temporary legalization in the U.S. and allow them to work, allow them to go to school in a legal manner. And that's what DACA is all about. And that's the same program that now is winding down.
I know our universities are affected by all this, and a lot of universities actively recruit students from other countries, and 9/11 occurred, and then kind of a new set of regulations that came by, and now DACA and the dealings with the presidential administrations of Obama and now Trump. How are universities handling all this, and are they a potential client for you, or are they dealing with it internally and through their individual states?
It depends on the university. Many of them do need outside immigration help, and many of them do have inside immigration counsel. The idea is that to begin with, there are many states, including Oklahoma, that they allow children who are undocumented to go to school, to even pay in-state tuition, even if they're undocumented, provided that they went through the education system in the state, through elementary school and high school in the state. And in addition to that, those people who are DACA beneficiaries, because they become legal and because they are encouraged to go to school and work in a legal manner, many of them do go to schools, and therefore our universities benefit from it as a result.
Amir Farzaneh is a professor at Oklahoma City University's Law School. He specializes in immigration issues. We'll have more in the next segment. You're watching The Verdict.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to The Verdict. We're visiting with Amir Farzaneh, and he's talking about immigration law. What are you advising people in Oklahoma City that come to you in your office and ask for advice right now, and kind of the period we're in right now, where no one really seems to know where immigration law is headed with the Dreamers?
Well, my advice to people, especially those who are not immigrants, and immigrants, those who have access to our lawmakers, is to encourage our federal lawmakers to come up with one of the, and do approve one of the variations of the DREAM Act. Because for example, here in Oklahoma, we have people who are undocumented. We have people who were brought to the U.S. when they were children. They exist. They're out there. The question is, do we want for them, for those who are beneficial members of the society, those who have gone to school, those who have not committed any crimes, those who are willing to pay taxes, who are willing to work in a legal manner, who are willing to go to school, is it better for them to do this legally, or is it better for them to be in hiding? And as I mentioned in the past, there are some of our immigration laws do not make sense. For example, in 1996, Congress came up with a law called IRA, Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996. And what happened was that law created, for example, a locking system. If somebody has been unlawfully present in the U.S. for more than a year after the age of 18, that person cannot leave the U.S. because if he or she leaves the U.S., cannot come back for 10 years. And if they do without a waiver, that's the end of it. No matter what the situation, they can never, ever stay in the U.S. legally. So our laws are encouraging people who had been in the U.S. legally for more than a year not to set a foot outside the U.S. So that being the case, what we need to do, we really need to have an immigration overhaul. We need to have an immigration reform done. And one of the basic things that needs to be done is a version of the DREAM Act needs to be approved. And eventually we need to have immigration reform, to have immigration laws that do make sense, as opposed to the ones that actually entice illegal population to stay in the U.S. as opposed to leaving.
I've heard the number 800, 900,000 dreamers in the United States.
Correct.
Of course, we have some in Oklahoma, some of whom are probably clients of yours.
Right.
Do you have any idea of how many possible dreamers we have in Oklahoma?
No, I don't know the exact number in Oklahoma, but the federal number is about 800,000.
Yeah. But they are involved in all aspects of Oklahoma society, are they not? They're teachers,
Absolutely.
they're policemen, they're firemen, or whatever they may
They're
be.
employees, correct, because see, the law is that the moment someone gets a work authorization card or an employment authorization document, that person cannot be discriminated against in any manner. That person has to be hired just like anyone else, even if there is a day left off of that work authorization card. So they had been, these people, they're kids that were raised in the United States and in Oklahoma, those who are here. So they're just like any other children or any other people out there. They had been having those work authorization cards, and they had been working, they had been doing what they needed to do, they had been paying taxes, they had been going to school. Now all of a sudden, if we stop this, we have all these people, 800,000, or close to 1 million in the nation, that we're going to have to do something with, and they're going to be all deportable.
Distinguish conceptually for me between the right to be in the United States legally on the one hand as a non-citizen, and the right to have a path to citizenship as someone who does not yet have that citizenship.
Right.
Those are two different status. Does
Correct.
the DREAM Act or the Dreamers Act include both the right to be in the United States and a path to citizenship?
Yes, almost every one of the versions of the DREAM Act had a path to first legalization, then becoming a U.S. resident, and eventually becoming a U.S. citizen. As opposed to DACA. DACA had been just nothing but a temporary legalization period for people.
President Trump has talked about wanting to almost recruit some immigrants, the highly educated immigrants, those that can potentially add to the economy. How does all that play into the law of immigration? Are those types of parameters spelled out?
Yes, they are. And again, as I mentioned, one of the things that we need to do, we need to have an overhaul of our immigration system. For example, we have a visa category called H-1B, which is for specialized folks and those who are highly specialized in what they do. But the Congress has always kept the limit to 65,000. There are all these businesses that need these really highly specialized people to come and work for them. But every year we run out of visa numbers. We run out of visa numbers to a point that recently has become like a lottery. So if you're a business and you really need this engineer, you go, first of all, you have to time it. You have to start his employment or her employment on the first day of the fiscal year, on October 1 of the year that the visa numbers are available. and you're going to have a chance of 1 out of 3 to be able to hire this person. So if you're a business wanting to really run your business, all of your plans are going to be on hold. So what we need to do, we really need to increase the number of visas available to those highly specialized people. We need to make sure that we have proper categories for non-immigrant visas for those people that the businesses need to be able to hire.
I have heard you talk in past times, either with me personally or otherwise, about a visa, and I couldn't tell you the number, where someone has a lot of money, and they're outside the United States, and they're willing to invest a certain amount of money, and if they do, they get into the country. I don't want to try to characterize it, I'd use the wrong term. But can you talk about that? I've heard some criticism recently of people buying their citizenship. Well, talk about that program.
Sure, that program is in the 5th preference category of the employment-based visas, and it's often referred to as EB-5. An EB-5 program allows for those investors who invest in the U.S. and create jobs to be able to apply for their U.S. residency. In my opinion, it's a very good program because it allows for investors to bring money to the United States, to create jobs, and not only they create direct jobs, but they also end up creating indirect and induced jobs. So I think it's a good program. What the government has announced is that they are going to, the administration has decided that they're going to increase the amount of investment. It used to be $1 million, and they're going to increase it to $1.8 million. So
What are dreamers able to do? What are they not able to do currently in the state of Oklahoma?
Well, they are those who do have their approvals through DACA. They're able to stay in Oklahoma. They're able to work. They're able to go to school.
Can they get professional licenses?
Well, in some cases, yes. In some cases, no, depending on what the requirements are, because they are not U.S. residents, and they're not residents of Oklahoma.
Can they get a driver's license?
They can get a driver's license.
Do they
yes.
have voting privileges?
No, absolutely not. Even those who have U.S. residencies, they do not have voting privileges. In fact, unlawful voting and false claim to U.S. citizenship is a permanent bar to ever being able to stay in the U.S. for anyone who is not a U.S. citizen.
Can they travel internationally and expect to be returned?
Well, they could up to a few days ago. And what happened was there is a document named advance parole that would allow them to leave the U.S. without their status being abandoned and be able to come back to the U.S. And the government, even though the government has decided that they're going to wind down DACA all the way up to March 5th, but the government has decided that they're not going to honor the advance paroles anymore. So anymore, at least the way we know as of today, those individuals cannot leave the United States.
We got about a minute left, and I know you've recently invested in a brand new office building in the Oklahoma City area. We brought along a couple of pictures. Why don't you
Yes,
talk
sir.
us through these as we take a look at the pictures?
Yes, it's our new building. It used to be a school in Moore. The address is 1025 Southwest 4th. It's a fantastic building. We're very happy about it.
You're on the second floor?
We're on the second floor.
What's that picture of there?
This is the picture of the entrance to the bottom floor, and of course the door is closed at this point in time, but this is going to be an office building with various types of offices in there, and our office is on the second floor.
Amir Farzaneh, thanks for coming back.
Yeah,
on the
thank
you very much.
Again.
I can't think of a show that's been more topical, and I think you've explained things well to a lot of people that have misunderstandings about immigration law and how it affects us here in Oklahoma.
Including the two of us.
Yeah, that's right.
You're
Kent
very
and I'll have a
kind. Thank
final
you.
word when we get back.
There are now 11 million of us who live here and work here. I was 15 when I came here 6 years ago. I raised my family here, drive my truck to my job every day. The only difference between now and 6 years ago, I do it legally. I wanted to. Because this is my home.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
We are a very conservative family, and we believe in old-fashioned family values. We have a loving home there, and we love kids, and we had 5, 6 of our own, but had no idea we were going to go into adoption, but it's been very gratifying.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. We use this segment to talk about immigration law with Amir Farzaneh.
Well, you have said in the openings for years that we try to bring topics to the viewers that are timely, and this certainly seems to be timely. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot in the process of just listening to Amir. He's really competent. Mm-hmm.
Well, and you know, part of the topical nature of this is starting at the White House. You know, Secretary Kelly was running Department of Homeland Security, and then President Trump decided to bring him closer into the White House to serve on the inside, and now Attorney General Sessions is running it, and they haven't replaced Secretary Kelly as the head of the DHS. So, I mean, this is all evolving, and of course Congress looking at it now. I'm sure it will continue to evolve in the coming months, and we appreciate Amir and his intellect coming on and helping to explain a lot of this. We have more information on our guest today. You can find out more about Amir's company at Farzaneh.com. That's Farzaneh.com. And then we have a website. Go to theverdict.tv. Tell us about a guest you'd like to see or a topic you'd like to see us discuss on a future edition of our show. Until then, Kent and I will see you right here on the airways. So long.